I didn't realize I was being manipulated until I caught myself apologizing for something I didn't even remember doing. Most days, my life is pretty boring. I work the early shift at a small neighborhood diner, the kind with sticky menus and regulars who order the usual before their coats are off. I pour coffee, flip pancakes, listen to people complain about the weather, and then go home to my little two-bedroom rental. I used to share that place with my cousin, Emily. We grew up together like sisters, and when she asked if she could move in after her breakup, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. We split the rent, split the chores, and spent Friday nights on the couch watching trash TV and eating microwave popcorn. At first, it really was that simple. She helped with dishes, sent me funny texts during my shift, and left little post-it notes on the fridge that said things like, "You got this," or "Proud of you, chef." I thought I'd lucked out with the perfect roommate. The first red flag was wrapped in a joke. One Sunday morning, I was counting my tips at the kitchen table when she walked in, hair in a messy bun, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She glanced at the pile of crumpled bills and said, laughing, "Damn! Must be nice being the rich one. I'm just the poor, helpless cousin." I laughed it off. We always teased each other, and I didn't want to be the sensitive one. But that night, when the power bill came and she forgot her half, she repeated it, softer this time. "You know I'm struggling right now. You're making way more than me. Can you cover it?" She worked at a clothing store in the mall, part-time. I told myself it made sense for me to help, just until she got back on her feet. So I paid the bill. Then it was the Wi-Fi. Then groceries. Then half the rent. Just this month, I swear. Each time, there was a joke first, then a sad story, then a sigh about how lucky I was to be so stable. I started picking up extra shifts. The diner owner loved that I was willing to come in early, stay late, cover when someone called out. My feet ached all the time, and my back hurt from leaning over tables, but I told myself it was temporary. At home, things shifted, almost too slowly to notice. Dishes piled up in the sink, but they weren't mine. Her laundry spilled out of her bedroom and onto the hallway floor. When I mentioned it, she'd grin and say, "You're just better at keeping things tidy. You know I'm a mess." She started calling me Mom in this half-joking tone. Like when she texted, "Mom, can you pick up milk on the way home?" Or, "Mom, I need gas money." Her friends picked it up too when they came over. "Oh my God, Em, your cousin takes such good care of you. She's basically your mom." I'd smile, but inside something twisted. I was 29, not 49, and I never agreed to be anyone's parent. The emotional stuff crept in next. If I tried to say no to something, she'd go quiet. She'd retreat to her room, slam the door, and I'd hear the muffled hum of her TV through the wall. Later, she'd emerge with red eyes and say she just needed space because she didn't want to make me feel bad about how much she relied on me. Somehow, I'd end up apologizing for setting boundaries, for not wanting to pay for her takeout, for daring to suggest she apply for more hours at work. She got good at framing everything as we. "We're behind on rent. We really need to clean the apartment. We should cut back on spending." But "we" always meant me. I was the one losing sleep, crunching numbers in my head at 2 a.m., wondering if my car would make it another month without serious repairs. Meanwhile, she was posting Instagram stories from brunch with friends, bottomless mimosas and all. The worst part was how she talked about me when she thought I couldn't hear. One night, I came home earlier than usual because my boss cut me after the lunch rush. Her bedroom door was half open, and I heard her on the phone. "She's fine," Emily was saying. "She's just intense, very controlling, but like, in a caring way. She freaks out if I'm late with my part of the bills, but she ends up paying them anyway. It's like she likes having something to complain about." I froze in the hallway. She laughed and added, "Yeah, she'd be lost without me. I keep her social. Otherwise, she'd just work and go home like some sad little old lady." Sad little old lady. I felt my face go hot, even though no one could see me. This little knot of anger formed in my stomach, but I swallowed it. I backed away, made some noise with my keys, then pretended I'd just arrived. Dinner that night was normal. She talked about some rude customer at the mall. I listened, nodded, and scraped my fork across my plate to keep from thinking too much. The thing about manipulation is, when you're inside it, it feels like fog. You know something's off, but you keep second-guessing yourself. Maybe I was too controlling. Maybe I was lucky to have a roommate, even a messy one. The moment everything started to crystallize was stupidly small. It was a Tuesday, I remember, because the diner had just finished the early bird special rush and I was wiping down a booth. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Hey Mom, the landlord came by. I told him you'd have the rest of the rent by Friday. Don't stress." I just stared at that message. The rest of the rent. Not our rent, my rent. My hands were still damp from the cleaning rag, and I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. That was the first moment I looked at her behavior as something deliberate, not accidental. By the time I walked out of the diner that day, the fog had thinned just enough for me to see the shape of what was happening. I wasn't just helping family, I was being used. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done being the mom. I didn't snap all at once. It was more like the slow, steady tightening of a rope I hadn't even realized was around my neck. After that text about the rent, I went home quieter than usual. Emily didn't notice. She was sprawled across the couch, scrolling on her phone, half-eaten takeout container on the coffee table. When I asked why she told the landlord I'd cover the rest, she shrugged. "You're better with money," she said. "Asking stresses me out. I figured it'd stress you less." It was such a clean little sentence. Neat, polished, designed to make me feel guilty for even bringing it up. I told her I needed her to pay her part. She let out this dramatic, exhausted sigh and said, "I'm trying, but you don't get it. Things are just harder for me." Then she turned her face toward the cushion, effectively ending the conversation. I walked into my room, feeling like I'd done something wrong. Again. But under that, something firmer was forming. A kind of resolve. Over the next week, everything that had once slipped by me started hitting harder. Her jokes, her excuses, the way she'd use my things without asking, from my shampoo to the Tupperware I'd set aside for my lunches. I'd open the fridge to find leftovers I made completely gone. She'd look at me with this innocent little smile and say, "Oh, I thought you didn't want them." She never thought anything, she just took. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I'd pulled a double shift because we were short-staffed, and the diner owner begged me to stay. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. My feet were throbbing. All I wanted was to heat up the chili I'd made the night before. I opened the fridge. The container was missing. I stood there staring into the empty shelf, like maybe the universe was playing a joke. "Emily!" She was in the living room painting her nails, the window open, music playing softly. "What's up?" "My chili, where is it?" She didn't even look up. "Oh, I had friends over earlier. We were starving. But don't worry, you can make more this weekend." Make more. Just that. Like food was infinite. Like my time didn't cost anything. I felt something in me crack. Not loud, not explosive, just a thin, final fracture. "I worked all day," I said quietly. "So? You're always working," she replied, blowing on her nails. "You're used to it." There it was. The truth she didn't even bother to pretty up anymore. I went to my room without another word. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, shoes still on. My hands were shaking. Anger, exhaustion, disappointment, all tangled together. And then my phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend's group chat, the one she'd accidentally left open on our shared laptop earlier that week. I hadn't snooped on purpose. The notification window had just popped up. This new message pulled me right back into that moment. One of her friends had asked earlier, "Is your cousin cool with us eating her food?" Emily had replied, "She won't say anything, she's too nice, and if she does get weird about it, I'll just cry or something lol." I read that line again and again. She'll just cry or something. LOL. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't helpless. She was choosing this. She was calculating. That was the moment the fog finally burned off. I realized I didn't want a fight. I didn't want a screaming match. I didn't want to throw her out on the street. I wanted clarity. I wanted things in writing. I wanted a plan she couldn't wiggle out of with fake tears, guilt trips, or that soft, fragile tone she pulled out whenever I said no. And most of all, I wanted her to feel the weight of her own choices. So I sat up, wiped my eyes, and took a deep breath. If she was going to treat me like the villain every time I asked for basic respect, then fine. I could play the part. But I'd be the kind of villain who kept receipts. That night, I opened my notebook, the cheap little spiral one I usually used for grocery lists. I wrote down every late bill, every forgotten payment, every shift I picked up because she'd asked me to cover her part. I wrote dates, amounts, screenshots of messages. I wasn't planning anything big yet. I just needed the truth in one place. By the time I closed the notebook, something in me felt steady for the first time in months. I knew what I needed to do. I wasn't going to yell or cry or beg her to change. I was going to let her show her true self and let the consequences land exactly where they belonged. And the next time she crossed the line, I promised myself I wouldn't explain away the red flags. I wouldn't smooth things over. I wouldn't save her from herself. The next time she pushed, I'd be ready. The next morning, I woke up with a kind of calm I hadn't felt in a long time. Not happy, not relieved, just clear, like I'd finally stepped out of someone else's shadow. Emily was already in the kitchen, making avocado toast with my bread, humming to herself like nothing in the world could touch her. Normally, that would have irritated me. This time, I just watched. I wanted to see how she acted when she thought everything was still under her control. She didn't disappoint. "Hey," she said casually, "can you Venmo me $10 for gas? I'm running late." I didn't even look up from my coffee. "No." She blinked like I'd spoken in another language. "No? No?" There was this tiny pause, like she was flipping through her mental playbook for the right emotional card to pull. She settled on a pout. "You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." "It's not my responsibility," I said, calm as a lake. Her expression flickered. She grabbed her keys and left in a huff, slamming the door just loud enough to register her displeasure. That was the first shift. Small, but important. She wasn't used to resistance. I spent that week observing, writing everything down, every request, every mess she left, every time she dropped her emotional weight onto me like I was a walking safety net. I didn't argue. I didn't push back. I just stopped filling in the blanks for her. She started slipping. Her excuses got sloppier. Her stories didn't line up. Whenever she tried to paint herself as helpless, I'd respond with the same neutral tone. "I trust you'll handle it." It threw her off balance. Manipulators don't know what to do when you take away the reactions they rely on. The real setup began with the rent. 2 days before the first of the month, she knocked on my door with that theatrical sigh she saved for moments she needed sympathy. "We're short on rent again," she said, leaning against the frame like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. "You mean you're short?" I corrected. She frowned. "Well, yeah, but we're a team. We're roommates," I said, "and roommates split the rent." Her face tightened. "You're being really cold." "I'm being clear." She stormed off, calling me impossible under her breath. But that clarity? That was exactly what I needed, because the next day she made the mistake I'd been waiting for. I came home from work and found the landlord, Mr. Jenkins, standing on our front step. He's this older guy, polite, but blunt. "Afternoon," he said. "Got your note." "My note?" He handed me a folded piece of paper with shaky handwriting. It said, "I'm sorry I didn't pay my part. My cousin said she'll cover the full rent from now on. She wants to be responsible for it. Signed, Emily." My stomach dropped, not from fear, but from the perfect stupidity of it. She'd put this in writing. She'd handed me exactly what I needed. I looked at Mr. Jenkins. "I didn't write this," I said. He nodded. "Figured. Can I take a picture of it?" "Go ahead." I snapped a photo, thanked him, and paid only my half of the rent right there. Cash I'd put aside specifically for this moment. I also asked him to send her a formal notice for her unpaid portion. He agreed. He'd been tired of her excuses, too. That evening, when she got home, she found the notice taped to her door. Her voice shot up instantly. "Why would he put this on my door?" I kept my tone even. "Because you didn't pay your half. I told him you would cover it. And I told him I wouldn't." She looked like I'd slapped her. "You embarrassed me." "No," I said, holding up my phone with the photo of her fake note. "You did that." Her eyes darted to the paper, and for the first time since she moved in, she didn't have a quick excuse ready. She just stood there, speechless. I didn't argue. I didn't gloat. I simply said, "From now on, everything's going through writing. Text, notes, whatever. No more verbal agreements. We're keeping things clear." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. All she managed was, "You're being really dramatic." "Just organized," I replied. From that point on, the house wasn't a playground for her anymore. It was a record, a timeline, a collection of evidence she didn't realize she was writing herself into. Every time she left a mess, I took a photo. Every time she missed a bill, I kept the notice. Every time she tried to guilt me through text, I saved the messages. I wasn't planning a courtroom drama. I wasn't taking her to small claims yet. But I was building something solid, undeniable, and unshakable. I was building the foundation to end this situation cleanly and permanently. And the best part? She was helping me, one thoughtless little action at a time. The end didn't come with a blow-up fight or some dramatic shouting match. It came the same way everything else with her had come. Quietly, subtly, with just enough arrogance on her part that she didn't see the ground shifting beneath her feet. 2 weeks after the landlord notice, Emily was unraveling. Not in a tragic, life-falling-apart way. More in the, "my usual tricks aren't working, and I don't know what to do without them" way. She kept trying the old routines. Pouting. Fake crying. Calling me mom. Hinting that she was too stressed to deal with bills or chores. But every time she pulled one of her old levers, nothing happened. I didn't argue. I didn't cave. I didn't soothe. I just stuck to the same simple line. "You're responsible for your part." Her frustration bubbled over in small, petty ways. She'd slam cabinets, leave bigger messes, turn the TV up too loud. Classic stuff you'd expect from a teenager, not a grown woman. And every single thing she did, I documented. Not because I wanted revenge in a dramatic sense, but because I wasn't giving her any room to twist the story later. Then came the moment that sealed everything. Rent was due again, and this time, instead of waiting until the last second, I sent her a text 3 days early. "Reminder, please send your half of the rent by the 1st. I will only be paying my portion." She read it, ignored it. Classic Emily move. On the morning of the 1st, she cornered me in the kitchen. "I can't pay," she said, arms crossed like she was delivering a command, not admitting failure. "You'll need to cover it." "No," I said. She huffed. "You're seriously going to make us both look bad to the landlord? He already knows who's paid and who hasn't." "You're unbelievable." "And you're out of time," I replied. The next part happened faster than even I expected. She stormed out of the kitchen, muttering under her breath. Less than an hour later, Mr. Jenkins came by again, this time with a formal notice addressed solely to her. She panicked. She tried spinning it like it was unfair, like it was some misunderstanding, like I had caused the stress. But she couldn't escape the paper trail. The texts, the missed payments, the photos, the fake note she wrote pretending to be me. When I calmly laid everything out, just facts, nothing emotional, her anger collapsed into silence. Real, stunned silence. She looked around our living room as if she was seeing it for the first time. The bills, the mess, the responsibility, all of it belonged to her now, not me. What, what are you saying? She asked finally. I'm asking you to find another place to live, I said. I'll give you 30 days. I'll put it in writing. But this isn't working anymore. She stared at me, eyes wide, like she genuinely didn't understand how things had changed, like she couldn't process a world where I wasn't bending for her every time she leaned. You're supposed to help me, she whispered. I did, I said, for a long time. But helping became enabling, and I'm done with that. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just walked to her room and closed the door quietly, something she hadn't done in months. Over the next few weeks, she tried half-hearted manipulation here and there, but none of it landed. Without someone to carry her, her habits caught up to her fast. Late fees, overdrafts, friends who didn't want to babysit her. She moved out exactly on the 30th day. No hug, no apology, just a defeated, quiet exit with 2 trash bags full of clothes and a chipped suitcase. The silence she left behind was the loudest relief I'd felt in years. I cleaned the apartment top to bottom, rearranged the living room, and sat on my couch with a bowl of chili. Mine, untouched by anyone but me. The moral hit me slowly. Not in a neat, packaged lesson, but in a lived-in truth. People don't turn you into a doormat. You turn yourself into one by believing their comfort matters more than your peace. Setting boundaries wasn't revenge. Letting her face the consequences of her own choices wasn't revenge. The real revenge, the quiet, satisfying kind, was taking my life back. And I did. One clear, steady no at a time.